The pristine white halls of the Galactic Council's research vessel hummed with excitement. Today marked the first detailed medical examination of a human volunteer aboard their ship, and the alien scientists could barely contain their curiosity. Their subject, Tom Reed, lay calmly on the examination table, his relaxed attitude a stark contrast to the nervous energy filling the room. Dr. Blue's bioluminescent patches flickered with interest as he studied the initial scan results. His tentacles waved in what his species considered a sign of confusion. The human's internal structure seemed impossibly redundant and messy compared to the elegant efficiency found in most spacefaring races. "Mr. Reed," Dr. Blue spoke through the translator, his patches pulsing with each word, "your species has 2 organs for filtering blood and 2 separate organs for breathing. This seems highly inefficient." The doctor's assistant, a tall insectoid being, clicked its mandibles in agreement. Tom smiled, already used to alien reactions to human biology. "Yes, we call them kidneys and lungs. They're backup systems, in case one gets damage." The medical team exchanged troubled looks. The concept of evolutionary development anticipating organ damage was deeply disturbing to them. What kind of planet would produce beings that needed such redundancy? As they continued their scans, their surprise only grew. Dr. Blue's patches shifted to a deep purple, indicating shock, as he reviewed the data about human liver function. "Your species can survive with only part of this organ. And it regenerates." "That's right," Tom replied, watching with amusement as the alien medical team huddled together, chittering and flashing in their various languages. "Our liver can regrow from as little as 25% of its original mass." The assistant dropped her data pad, her compound eyes reflecting the room's light in rapid patterns. "Regeneration, like primitive reptilian species." Dr. Blue raised 2 of his tentacles, a gesture requesting calm among his colleagues, but even his professional demeanor couldn't hide his growing fascination. He moved to examine Tom's skeletal structure, and his patches flashed rapidly between colors. "These marks on your bones," he said, pointing to old, healed fractures. "They've reformed stronger than before. Your skeleton actively repairs and reinforces itself." The concept seemed to both disturb and intrigue him. Tom nodded, thinking back to his childhood bicycle accident. "Yeah, broken bones usually heal stronger at the break point. It's pretty common in human children especially. We call them growing pains." The medical team's reaction to the term growing pains caused quite a stir. The idea of pain being a normal part of developments sent several junior researchers hurrying from the room to compose themselves. As the examination continued, they discovered more shocking facts about human biology. The concept of wisdom teeth, spare teeth hidden under the gums, caused particular distress. The ability to function with only 1 lung or kidney led to a heated debate about the definition of essential organs. But it was the human brain that truly amazed them. Dr. Blue's patches turned a brilliant gold, a sign of intellectual excitement, as he studied the neural scans. "Your brain, it can reroute functions if damaged, create new pathways, adapt to injury." His tentacles curled in tight spirals, a gesture of deep thought. "And you maintain consciousness and personality even with significant damage to some areas." "Brain plasticity," Tom explained. "We don't fully understand it ourselves. But yes, our brains can often work around damage, especially in younger people." The insectoid assistant's antennae twitched rapidly. "But such redundancy, such wasteful use of energy and resources. How did your species survive long enough to achieve spaceflight?" Tom grinned. "Maybe it's not wasteful at all. Maybe it's exactly what we needed to survive on Earth." Dr. Blue's patches shifted to a thoughtful blue shade. He'd studied the classification of Earth as a death world, but seeing the adaptations up close made him reconsider everything he thought he knew about efficient biological design. He dismissed the rest of the medical team and moved closer to Tom. "Mr. Reed, would you be willing to participate in more detailed studies? I believe we've barely scratched the surface of understanding human biological capabilities. Tom sat up on the examination table, his movement causing several nearby instruments to beep in alarm at his dangerous vital signs, signs that were perfectly normal for humans. Doc, I think this is the beginning of a very interesting partnership. As they left the examination room, Dr. Blue's patches flickered with excitement. He had a feeling that this human would challenge everything the Galactic Council thought they knew about biology, evolution, and survival. The real question was, were they ready for the answers they would find? The massive training arena aboard the research vessel buzzed with activity. Alien scientists and officials from various worlds filled the observation deck, their excited chatter creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, and electronic pulses. Below them, Tom Reed stood calmly in his exercise clothes, stretching as Dr. Blue explained the upcoming endurance trials. The Galactic Council has arranged a series of tests. Dr. Blue's patches glowed softly as he spoke. They want to understand your physical capabilities compared to other species. He gestured to 3 alien athletes waiting nearby, each from a different world known for physical prowess. The first was a 6-legged runner from a low-gravity planet, built like a sleek racing machine. The second, a powerful creature with thick fur and massive muscles, came from an ice world. The third was a tall, willowy being with silvery skin, evolved for speed on their ocean planet. Simple running test first, Dr. Blue explained, his tentacles moving gracefully as he pointed to the track. Just keep going until you need to stop. The race began slowly, all 4 participants moving at an easy pace. The 6-legged athlete looked confused at the slow speed, while the furry ice worlder seemed uncomfortable in the climate-controlled environment. The silvery being glided along effortlessly. After 30 minutes, the ice worlder dropped out, its thick fur making temperature regulation impossible. The 6-legged runner followed soon after, its sprint-adapted muscles not suited for extended running. The silvery being lasted 2 hours before gracefully conceding. Tom kept running. The observation deck erupted in confused discussion as the human continued his steady pace. Dr. Blue's patches flickered rapidly as he monitored Tom's vital signs. The most shocking thing to the aliens wasn't just that Tom kept going, it was the water pouring from his skin. He's leaking. Someone shouted in alarm. His internal fluids are escaping. Dr. Blue's patches flashed in excitement. No, this is fascinating. It's their cooling system. They call it sweating. The liquid evaporates to lower body temperature. 3 hours in, Tom was still moving. His shirt was soaked with sweat. His breathing was heavy. But he maintained his pace. The alien observers watched in horror and amazement as the liquid continued to pour from his skin without causing him any apparent distress. That's enough, Dr. Blue finally called, his patches showing concern for what he considered dangerous fluid loss. Most impressive, Mr. Reed. Tom slowed to a walk, breathing hard but smiling. Just getting warmed up, Doc. Humans can do this for days if we need to. The silence that followed was deafening. The next test involved strength under stress. The aliens were shocked to learn about human adrenaline response. The idea of a body temporarily overriding its safety limits seemed suicidal to them. Your muscles don't have built-in limiters, the 6-legged runner asked, horrified. You can just choose to risk damage. Not exactly choose, Tom explained, lifting weights that the aliens had calculated should be impossible for his muscle mass. It's automatic in emergencies. We can break our own bones from muscle contractions if we need to. The silvery being moved away slightly, its skin rippling in distress. The final test of the day measured recovery time. The aliens were amazed at how quickly Tom's breathing and heart rate returned to normal after extreme exertion. But what really shocked them was his request for more exercise tomorrow. You want to stress your systems again. So soon. Dr. Blue's patches were practically strobing with confusion. Surely you need several days to recover. Tom took a long drink from his water bottle. Another concept that fascinated the aliens. The ability to process plain water without supplements. Nah, exercise actually makes us stronger. Breaking down muscle helps it rebuild better. The furry ice worlder made a sound like a whistle. Your species intentionally damages itself to improve. This is madness. Dr. Blue's patches had settled into a deep blue of contemplation. Everything they were learning about humans contradicted the Council's understanding of efficient biological design. Their redundant organs, their ability to push past normal limits, their practice of intentionally stressing their bodies to improve them. It all seemed counterintuitive. "Mr. Reed," he said finally, "I believe we need to completely revise our understanding of what makes a species successful. Your inefficient systems are proving to be remarkably effective." Tom grinned, wiping more alarming amounts of sweat from his forehead. "Doc, wait until you see what humans can do in an actual emergency. This is just our baseline." The observation deck quickly emptied at those words, leaving Dr. Blue alone with his human subject. The scientist's patches swirled with mixed colors of excitement and concern. What other surprises would this Deathworlder reveal? The accident happened 3 days after the endurance tests. Tom was helping the research team move some equipment when he caught his arm on a sharp edge of a metal container. The cut wasn't deep, but it was enough to cause immediate panic among the alien scientists. Medical emergency. The insectoid assistant's mandibles clicked rapidly in alarm. The human's external barrier has been breached. Containment protocols. "It's just a cut," Tom interrupted calmly, looking at the thin red line on his forearm. "Got a first aid kit." Dr. Blue's patches flashed in confusion as he watched Tom clean and bandage the wound himself. The human's casual attitude toward his injury disturbed the entire medical team. They insisted on documenting the healing process, turning a minor accident into an impromptu research opportunity. "Remarkable," Dr. Blue said the next day, his patches pulsing with excitement as he examined the wound. "Your body has already started producing new cells. And these white blood cells, they're actively attacking potential invaders." Tom nodded, used to the daily examinations by now. "Yeah, that's our immune system. Pretty standard stuff for humans." The medical team watched in fascination as the cut continued to heal over the next few days. They were particularly intrigued by the scab formation, which several aliens initially mistook for dangerous tissue decay until Tom explained its purpose. "So your body creates a protective barrier over wounds." The silvery being from the running tests had joined the research team, its skin rippling with interest. "And new skin grows underneath." "That's right," Tom said. "The scab falls off when the new skin is ready." This led to another shocking discovery for the aliens when Tom developed a slight fever that evening. The medical bay erupted in chaos as his temperature rose. "His internal temperature is rising." Dr. Blue's patches strobed with alarm. The wound must have introduced harmful organisms. "It's normal," Tom tried to explain as the aliens rushed around in panic. "My body's fighting off potential infection. The heat helps kill bad bacteria." Dr. Blue's patches suddenly shifted to a deep purple of shock. "You mean your body intentionally raises its temperature as a defense mechanism?" "Sure. We call it a fever. It's like running a high-temperature cleaning cycle." The concept of intentionally raising body temperature as a defense mechanism horrified the alien medical team. To them, it seemed like setting your house on fire to deal with pests. "But the energy cost," the insectoid assistant protested. "The risk to your other systems. The strain on your temperature regulation." Tom shrugged, which only added to their distress as they watched his healing wound stretch with the movement. "Our bodies are pretty good at managing it. We've had lots of practice." Over the next few days, the research team documented every aspect of Tom's healing process. They were amazed by the body's multiple simultaneous responses: the immune system's activation, the clotting mechanism, the formation of new tissue, and the constant adaptation to potential threats. "Your species does this automatically, without medical intervention." A new researcher, a floating gas-filled being, had joined the observation team. "For any injury." "Well, Bigger injuries need medical help, Tom explained. But yeah, our bodies try to fix pretty much anything that goes wrong. Sometimes too aggressively, actually. That's what allergies are. This led to another startling revelation for the aliens, the concept of an overactive immune system. The idea that human bodies could be too enthusiastic about defending themselves added a new layer of complexity to their understanding. Dr. Blue spent hours updating his research notes, his patches swirling with thoughtful colors. "Your healing mechanism isn't just reactive," he said finally. "It's predictive. Your body prepares for worse injuries, even while dealing with minor ones. It's excessive. On Earth, excessive is usually better than insufficient," Tom replied. "Better to have too much of a response than too little." The gas-filled researcher drifted closer to the observation window. "Your world must be terrifying if your bodies needed to develop such aggressive defense mechanisms." Tom smiled, watching as his nearly healed cut itched slightly. Another natural part of the healing process that fascinated the aliens. "Doc, everything about humans probably seems aggressive to you. We had to be, to survive. But you haven't seen anything yet." Dr. Blue's patches flickered with what might have been concern. The more they learned about human biological responses, the more questions they had. And somehow, he suspected that understanding human healing was just the beginning of their discoveries. Word about the Human Research Project had spread through the galactic community, drawing unwanted attention. A delegation of skeptical scientists from the Rigid Order, a species known for their strict adherence to biological efficiency, arrived at the research vessel demanding proof of the claimed human capabilities. "These findings are impossible," declared the lead delegate, his crystalline form gleaming under the lab lights. "No species can maintain such wasteful biological systems and survive to reach space travel." Dr. Blue's patches flickered with annoyance, but he maintained his professional composure. "We have documented every aspect of our research. The human body's capabilities are quite remarkable." "Then you won't mind additional testing," the crystal being interrupted. "Under our supervision." Tom, who had been quietly watching the exchange, stepped forward. "What kind of tests did you have in mind?" The crystal being's facets shifted in what might have been a smile. "Tests of your supposed pain tolerance and emergency response systems." Dr. Blue's patches flashed in alarm. "Now wait a moment." "It's okay, Doc," Tom said calmly. "I don't mind showing them." The new tests began immediately. The crystal beings started with temperature endurance, subjecting Tom to rapid changes in heat and cold. They were shocked when he not only survived but remained functional enough to solve complex mathematics problems during the trials. "Your cognitive functions remain intact under physical stress." The crystal beam's structure vibrated with disbelief. "How is this possible?" "Humans are good at compartmentalizing," Tom explained, his teeth chattering slightly in the cold chamber. "We can usually push through discomfort if we need to." The next test involved pain response. The delegates watched in horror as Tom calmly removed a splinter from his own finger, explaining how humans routinely performed minor self-surgery when needed. "You willingly inflict pain on yourself for maintenance." A younger crystal being's structure nearly destabilized at the thought. "Without medical suspension. Sometimes you just have to deal with it," Tom shrugged. "Pain is just information. We can choose to work through it." But it was the adrenaline test that truly shattered their preconceptions. The delegates set up an emergency scenario, triggering Tom's fight-or-flight response. They watched in amazement as his strength nearly doubled, his reaction time shortened, and his pain tolerance increased even further. His body is bypassing its own safety limits. One crystal being vibrated so intensely it nearly cracked. "This is biological chaos." Dr. Blue's patches had settled into a steady blue of understanding. Not chaos. Adaptation. Human biology prioritizes survival over efficiency. The crystal beings were particularly disturbed by Tom's elevated heart rate and blood pressure during the adrenaline response. To them, such dramatic changes in vital systems seemed like a guaranteed path to self-destruction. Your species intentionally evolved an emergency system that damages your own bodies. The lead delegate's crystalline form flickered with incomprehension. This defies all logical biological development. Tom, still coming down from the adrenaline rush, grinned. Sometimes you need to break a few eggs to make an omelet. The idiom had to be explained to the aliens, which only confused them further. The concept of accepting temporary damage for long-term survival seemed to challenge everything they believed about biological efficiency. There's more, Dr. Blue added, his patches showing excitement. Humans can maintain these emergency responses for extended periods if necessary. They call it running on adrenaline. The crystal beings huddled together, their forms resonating in disturbed harmony. They had come to disprove the research, but instead, they were witnessing capabilities that went against everything they understood about survival and evolution. Your species, the lead delegate finally said, is terrifying. Tom laughed, a sound that made several crystal beings vibrate nervously. No, we're just practical. On Earth, you adapt or you don't survive. Everything about us, our redundant organs, our healing ability, our pain tolerance, our emergency responses, it's all because our world didn't give us any other choice. Dr. Blue's patches shifted to a deep gold of revelation. Perhaps, he said thoughtfully, what we consider efficient isn't always what's most effective for survival. The crystal beings left shortly after, their report to the Galactic Council notably lacking their earlier skepticism. But as they departed, Tom couldn't help but notice they gave him a much wider berth in the corridors. It seemed the more aliens learned about human biology, the more they realized just how dangerous Earth must be, and how remarkable it was that humans had survived it. After the crystal being's departure, Dr. Blue's research team shifted their focus to something even more puzzling than human physical capabilities: the human mind. The observation room had been converted into a testing chamber, with various instruments monitoring Tom's brain activity. "We've been focusing too much on your physical traits," Dr. Blue said, his patches swirling with thoughtful colors. "But your psychological resilience might be even more remarkable." The first test was simple memory and pattern recognition. The aliens were surprised by Tom's ability to learn from mistakes quickly and adapt his approach. What amazed them even more was his ability to continue despite failure. "You knew the solution was wrong." The insectoid assistant clicked in confusion, yet you continued trying. "Why not wait for instruction?" Tom shrugged. "Humans learn better from mistakes than successes sometimes. Each wrong answer tells us what not to do next time." The concept of using failure as a learning tool shocked the alien researchers. In their societies, failure was seen as a sign to stop and seek guidance. The human approach of persistent trial and error seemed needlessly risky. The next test involved problem-solving under stress. The researchers created a puzzle that had to be solved while environmental conditions kept changing. Temperature swings, loud noises, bright lights, all designed to make concentration difficult. "Remarkable." Dr. Blue's patches pulsed with excitement. "Your focus actually improves under certain types of stress." "Yeah, some humans work better under pressure," Tom explained as he completed another puzzle. "We call it being in the zone, or hyperfocus." The floating gas being researcher expanded slightly in surprise. "Your species intentionally seeks out stressful situations to improve performance." This seems counterintuitive, but it was the concept of spite that truly baffled the alien researchers. During one particularly difficult test, Tom grew visibly frustrated with a seemingly impossible puzzle. Instead of giving up, his determination appeared to increase. "Your irritation is making you try harder." Dr. Blue's patches flickered rapidly in confusion. "This defies normal stress response patterns." Tom grinned as he finally solved the puzzle. "Sometimes humans do things just because someone said we couldn't. We call it spite." The research team had to take a break to process this information. The idea of negative emotions fueling increased effort rather than retreat seemed to challenge everything they knew about psychological responses. "Let me understand this." The insectoid assistant clicked slowly. You continue not just despite difficulty, but because of it. You use negative emotions as motivation. Spite, stubbornness, competitiveness, they can all push humans to try harder, Tom explained. We're funny that way. The tests continued, revealing more surprising aspects of human psychology. The aliens were amazed by Tom's ability to stay focused while tired, to maintain humor in difficult situations, and to quickly adapt to new challenges. Your species appears to thrive on challenge, Dr. Blue noted, his patches showing a mix of concern and admiration. You don't just survive difficulty, you seem to seek it out. Life on Earth is full of challenges, Tom said. We have to learn to not just handle them, but to use them to our advantage. A difficult situation is also an opportunity to learn and grow stronger. The gas-being researcher drifted closer. Is this why your entertainment often involves solving problems or overcoming obstacles? You practice dealing with difficulty for fun. Tom laughed. Never thought about it that way, but yeah, I guess we do. Puzzles, sports, video games, they're all about facing challenges voluntarily. Dr. Blue's patches settled into a deep blue of comprehension. Your physical adaptations are impressive, but this psychological resilience, it might be your species' most powerful trait. You don't just survive your death world. You've learned to thrive on its challenges. The research team spent the rest of the day updating their reports, adding new categories for psychological adaptations they hadn't even known to look for before. Terms like spite, stubbornness, and competitive drive were carefully defined and added to the Galactic database. Meanwhile, Tom sat quietly, working on a difficult puzzle just for fun, unknowingly demonstrating exactly what made humans so uniquely adapted to life on a death world. The ability to turn any challenge into an opportunity for growth. The emergency alarms blared through the research vessel, their piercing sound causing several alien crew members to freeze in distress. The ship's automated system announced a critical failure in the life support systems of the lower research deck, where several sensitive experiments were running. Dr. Blue's patches flashed emergency red as he rushed to the control room. His tentacles moved rapidly over the control panels while other crew members gathered around, their various appendages twitching with anxiety. The backup systems aren't responding. The insectoid assistant clicked in panic. Temperature is rising in sections 3 through 7. Atmosphere becoming unstable. Tom, who had been in the middle of another round of tests, quickly assessed the situation over Dr. Blue's shoulder. The screen showed that 3 researchers were trapped in one of the affected labs, a crystalline being, a gas-form researcher, and one of the aquatic species. How long until rescue teams arrive? Tom asked, already removing his outer shirt. 20 minutes minimum. Dr. Blue's patches pulsed with worry. The trapped researchers have maybe 10 minutes before their environmental conditions become lethal. Tom nodded, his expression turning serious. I'm going in. The control room erupted in protests. The temperature in the affected sections was approaching levels that the aliens considered absolutely lethal. The atmosphere was thinning. The radiation from the malfunctioning equipment was rising. Impossible. The crystal being from the previous tests vibrated in alarm. Those conditions would kill any living being. Humans are pretty good at impossible, Tom said, grabbing an emergency kit from the wall. Our bodies can handle extreme conditions for short periods. We just need to work fast. Before anyone could stop him, Tom was heading toward the affected section. Dr. Blue followed him to the safety door, his patches showing a mix of concern and curiosity. The heat will be intense, he warned, and the air will be thin. Your body will adapt, Tom finished for him. Humans can handle high heat for short periods. Our bodies evolved to cool themselves, remember? And we can hold our breath for a few minutes if needed. The sealed door opened, releasing a blast of hot air. Tom took several deep breaths, oxygenating his blood, a technique that fascinated the watching aliens, and entered the affected section. The conditions inside were brutal. The temperature was high enough to make the air shimmer, and the thin atmosphere made every breath a challenge. But Tom's body did what human bodies had evolved to do over millions of years on Earth. It adapted. His sweat glands activated immediately, coating his skin with moisture that evaporated in the heat, helping to keep his core temperature stable. His heart rate increased, moving oxygen more efficiently through his body. His pupils dilated, adjusting to the emergency lighting. He found the trapped researchers in the main lab. The crystalline being was showing signs of stress fractures from the heat. The gas form researcher had compressed themselves into a corner, trying to maintain stability in the thin air. The aquatic alien was barely conscious in their environment suit. Working quickly, Tom helped each researcher to safety. He carried the aquatic alien, guided the crystal being, and encouraged the gas form researcher, making multiple trips through the dangerous conditions. His body protested, but his mind remained focused, another human trait that amazed the watching aliens. By the time rescue teams arrived, Tom had gotten everyone to safety. He sat in the medical bay afterward, accepting treatment for mild heat exposure and oxygen deprivation, while the alien medical team watched in fascination as his body rapidly recovered. "You willingly entered conditions your sensors identified as lethal," Dr. Blue said, his patches still showing amazement. "Your body temperature rose to dangerous levels, yet you continued functioning. You kept making trips back into the danger zone, even after your oxygen levels dropped." Tom took a drink of water, his body already returning to normal. Humans have something called the dive reflex. We can function longer without optimal oxygen than you might expect. As for the heat and repeated trips, well, sometimes you just do what needs to be done. The rescued researchers gathered around, each expressing gratitude in their own way. The crystal beam's structure hummed with respect, the gas form researcher expanded in a gesture of appreciation, and the aquatic alien's fins waved in gratitude. Dr. Blue's patches settled into a color that none of the other aliens had seen before. "I think," he said slowly, "we're finally beginning to understand why Earth species survived. It's not just about having strong bodies or resilient minds. It's about using everything you have, pushing every limit when others need help." Tom smiled tiredly. "That's just being human, Doc. That's just being human." Last edited 2 hours ago. The main conference hall of the Galactic Council was packed with representatives from hundreds of worlds. Floating screens displayed data and images from the research vessel's studies, while Dr. Blue stood at the center platform, his patches glowing with professional pride as he presented his findings. "Distinguished colleagues," his patches pulsed with each word, "our research into human biology has revealed something extraordinary. We must fundamentally reconsider our definition of biological efficiency." Tom sat in the observation area, watching as Dr. Blue showed recordings of the various tests and the emergency rescue. The gathered aliens murmured and clicked and vibrated as they watched humans demonstrate abilities their species had never needed to develop. "What we originally saw as wasteful redundancy," Dr. Blue continued, his patches shifting to scholarly blue, "is actually an intricate survival strategy. Humans don't just have backup systems, they have backup systems for their backup systems." The crystal being who had once been so skeptical now stood to address the council. "Their biological systems appear chaotic, but there is a fascinating order to their chaos. They can deliberately damage their muscles to make them stronger. They can deprive themselves of oxygen to improve their breathing capacity. They can use negative emotions as motivation." The screen showed clips of Tom's healing process, his endurance runs, his problem-solving under stress. Each demonstration drew more reactions from the assembled aliens. But perhaps most remarkably, Dr. Blue's patches turned to a deep gold of revelation. Humans don't just survive despite their harsh world. They have learned to thrive because of it. Every challenge they face makes them stronger. Every problem they solve improves their ability to solve the next one. The gas form researcher floated forward to add their observations. "They have transformed their world's dangers into advantages. What should kill them makes them stronger instead. It defies everything we thought we knew about evolution." Tom smiled as he remembered his first day aboard the research vessel, when the aliens had been horrified by his redundant organs. Now they were beginning to understand that what looked like biological chaos was actually an intricate dance of adaptation and survival. "We propose," Dr. Blue announced, his patches now showing confidence, "a new classification for Earth species. Not just Deathworlders, but adaptive champions. Their apparent inefficiencies are actually sophisticated survival mechanisms that allow them to face challenges we cannot even imagine." The council chamber buzzed with discussion. Some aliens were clearly disturbed by the implications of the research. Others showed signs of fascination. A few seemed to be reconsidering their own species' biological adaptations. An elder member of the council, a being made of pure energy, moved forward. "This research changes our understanding of biological development. Perhaps what we considered primitive or wasteful deserves a second look. After all, these humans reached the stars despite, or perhaps because of, their unusual biology." Dr. Blue's patches shifted to a new color, one he had created just for discussing humans. "They call it adaptability. Every system in their bodies can change and improve based on the challenges they face. Their bones grow stronger when stressed. Their muscles rebuild bigger after damage. Their minds learn faster after failure. Even their immune systems remember and improve after fighting diseases." The council voted to create a new research initiative focused on human biology. Teams would study how human adaptations might benefit other species' medical treatments. Some aliens even volunteered to try human-style exercise programs, though most still found the concept of voluntary stress bizarre. As the session ended, Tom joined Dr. Blue on the platform. The alien scientist's patches showed a mix of respect and friendship. "You've changed how we see biology," Dr. Blue said. "Your species' inefficient systems have proven to be remarkably effective." Tom looked out at the assembled aliens, thinking about how far they'd come from their initial horror at human biology. "Maybe that's the biggest lesson here, Doc. There's more than one way to survive in this galaxy. Sometimes the messy way is the best way." The insectoid assistant, who had overcome her initial fear of human biological processes, clicked in agreement. "Humans are walking proof that chaos can be a valid survival strategy." "Not chaos," Dr. Blue corrected, his patches showing the special human understanding color. "Adaptation. The ability to change, to overcome, to turn weaknesses into strengths. That's what humans do best." Tom grinned as the council chambers emptied, aliens still discussing the implications of human biology. "You know what's really going to blow their minds, Doc? We haven't even shown them how humans dance yet." Dr. Blue's patches flickered in what might have been alarm, but there was amusement there too. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again, and that was probably a good thing.